Welcome to Kindred Spirits Book Club, the podcast where two grown-ass ladies geek out about Anne of Green Gables. I'm Reagan Duffy, and I'm here with my co-host, Kelly Gerner.
Hey there, Kindred Spirits. It is a whole new season.
Woot woot, season 4.
I feel like I'm buttoning a new cardigan or sharpening my little pencils for the first day of school.
You're a little behind the times, Kelly. Now kids for the first day of school are charging their Chromebooks.
Yes, of course. Charging my Chromebook. Well, either way, I'm glad to be back discussing these books with you, Reagan.
Me too. And it does always feel right to start something new in the fall. Maybe because, right, like we both still have that school year mentality. My birthday's in September too, so it just feels like we start everything new in September. And by the time this episode hits our listeners' ears, it should actually start feeling like fall rather than this summer hangover weather we have going on right now.
Yeah, woof. September in LA is no joke, everyone.
So, Kindred Spirits, are you following us on Instagram yet? Please do. We have so much fun sharing pictures and videos about all of these books, some pictures and videos from our visit to Prince Edward Island. And you can find us on Instagram at kindredspirits.bookclub. It's also a great way to interact and message us. We love hearing from all of you. And you can email us at kindredspirits.bookclub@gmail or DM us on Instagram. We always are so excited to hear your thoughts and opinions. Podcasting is kind of this funny leap of faith. We record it in our little home studios and then we just send it out to the universe, and we have no real way to know what others think about it. So please feel free to give us feedback or share your thoughts with us. It really makes us feel like what we're doing matters.
Or tell us what you'd like more of.
For sure. We're always looking for ideas. And Kindred Spirits, we do have a favor to ask. If you are enjoying this podcast, please leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts, if that's where you listen. Spotify and Pocket Casts also have the ability to rate podcasts. So if you listen there, please rate us 5 stars as well. That really helps us to be more likely to be promoted on those sites. And that way other kindred spirits can find us.
So before we begin our exploration and discussion of this season's quartet of books, we wanted to, reintroduce ourselves and the podcast to any new listeners and who sort of refresh our loyal listeners on what we've been up to. We know that 50 episodes in, it can be hard to know where to start with this podcast and hard to remember things from previous episodes. So this is us. We are primarily a podcast about the Anne of Green Gables series, but we also discuss other books by author Lucy Maud Montgomery.
Or, as we like to call her, our good friend Maud.
And of course, we also love to chat about books and reader life in general as well. The meat of our show is a sort of in-depth analysis of Montgomery's books, but we keep our discussions on the more lighthearted and accessible side. We are fans, not scholars.
Right. We are readers and fans first. And although we've spent a lot of times with these books, this isn't our job. Kelly is a lawyer and I'm a therapist, and that's what keeps the roofs over our heads. This podcast is purely a labor of love. Kelly and I have been friends for a really long time now, from our early internet days where we first met on a internet forum for fancy soap. So if you ever hear us reference fancy soap, that is where that came from. And gradually we became in-person friends when Kelly moved back to Los Angeles. We've been to each other's weddings. Kelly is the fairy godmother and rich auntie supreme to my daughter, Alice. And with our husbands in tow, we have vacationed together, pandemic potted together, celebrated lots of life's milestones together. Books have been a cornerstone of our friendship from the very beginning. So starting a podcast where we have dedicated time to talk about our favorite books together was kind of inevitable, I think. My husband would say that this podcast is a lot like being trapped on a road trip with us.
He would know.
He would know, having been trapped on a few road trips with us. So while we love a deep dive, we are approaching this from an enthusiast perspective. This podcast has been such a great way to learn more about classic children's literature, the time period the books are set in, and the life of the author.
So that brings to mind a really good question for me, actually. Reagan, what's the most surprising fact you've learned as we've been working on this podcast?
Oh, okay. It's been really fun learning a lot of the historical and literary context pieces that we've discussed, both in our Birch Paths and kind of sprinkled throughout the episodes in smaller bits.
Hmm.
One of my favorite things I learned that I now like to bring out as Anne trivia at parties, such as you do,
All
is
the Ella Montgomery related parties we go to now.
well, now we go to more, maybe.
We do. I was going to say that number isn't zero.
That number is not zero. What we learned was about Anne's Lily Maid play acting, that very famous scene in Anne of Green Gables. So we discussed this way back in episode 10, the one titled The Girls of Avonlea. All of us who grew up watching the Kevin Sullivan CBC miniseries of Anne, starring the spot on Megan Follows, think that Anne is playing The Lady of Shalott by Tennyson when she drifts through the pond, because that is the poem that she recites as she lies in the boat. However, what we learned is that actually Anne and her friends are acting out the longer epic poem by Tennyson in his Idylls of the King poetic saga called Lancelot and Elaine. The girls quote directly from the poem Lancelot and Elaine and act out Elaine's funeral scene in which her corpse drifts down the river to Camelot. And it is confusing because the Lady of Shalott also dies and drifts in a boat down to Camelot. So it's just so funny to me to think that a whole generation of Anne fans, we all have this collective impression about the Lady of Shalott. One of my other favorite things that I learned was something that you shared, Kelly, in episode 22, the one titled The One with All the Roommates. You taught us all about the history of communal living spaces for young unmarried women, especially at the Barbizon Hotel in New York. So that was fascinating to me. I have a little connection to the Barbizon from my college years. So learning that bit of history was really cool.
Those are two of my favorite facts that we've uncovered as well. Yeah, the Lady of Shalott thing still completely blows my mind when I think about it. But you know what fact still makes me laugh a little bit? And that is the fact that the Methodist and Presbyterian churches in Canada combined as the United Church of Canada in 1925. So we spend all of Anne's House of Dreams giggling over Miss Cornelia Bryant's quote unquote holy terror of Methodists, only to learn that like a short few decades later, those two churches were going to come together anyway.
I know, that's really funny.
It definitely adds a lot more color to Miss Cornelia's character when you see her constantly obsessing over this ecclesiastical difference that isn't even going to matter in a few years. So, Reagan, think of yourself as a new to the podcast listener scrolling through our feed, because at this point we are a pretty deep well of Anne of Green Gables content. Where would you recommend that new listeners begin?
Well, begin at the beginning, as the White Queen said to Alice. Okay, though actually you could probably just start at episode 2 with our Anne of Green Gables recap. Our first episode, we needed to learn a lot about podcasting. I think it was fine, but I think if you start with episode 2, you really haven't missed anything. I actually think all of our recaps are good episodes, to be honest, and sort of set up the deeper book discussions that follow really thoroughly. When you're reading a series like Anne with so many books and with so many adaptations, it can be very easy to get confused about what happens when or which character does what. So the recaps are so helpful to get oriented to each book.
Mm-hmm.
And I think then if you want to jump around in the episodes for each book after listening to the recap, I don't really know if it matters what order they're in. You can always pick your favorite theme or character to deep dive on first. And listeners, is it Gilbert? Because it's always Gilbert.
It's always Gilbert. We've seen the statistics, you guys. We know what you're listening to, and it's always Gilbert.
If you are deeply steeped in the Anneverse, you could start with any book you wanted to. But if you're a more casual Anne fan or are coming to our podcast as someone whose exposure to Anne is primarily through either the Anne of Green Gables miniseries or the Anne with an E TV show, I think starting with our Anne of Green Gables recap episodes, so that's episodes 2 and 3, is the thing to do. And if you haven't read all of the books, really don't worry about that. Our recaps are pretty thorough, so you'll be caught up to speed on each book as we get to it. What do you think, Kelly?
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Reagan. I think if you're an Anne fan, you should begin with your favorite book. Because I think if you're familiar with the series, you can pretty much dive in anywhere and get your bearings pretty quickly. But what I was thinking of is that if you are ready to move past Anne of Green Gables, but you're still kind of picking up the podcast out of the blue, a great place to start looking ahead to our forthcoming season is actually going to be episode 20. Now, we titled episode 20 Anne of Avonlea is Angelically Good. It's part of our second season and it's part of our Anne of Avonlea arc. And in this episode, we introduce Anne in the context of the larger Avonlea community. So we spend a ton of time talking about what it means to be part of a small rural community and what people living in those communities would have owed to each other and how they would have connected. And that's really a through line for our upcoming season as well. And then we also talk about the literary movements that Ella Montgomery was a part of. So that's super interesting too, and still relevant to our current discussions. And even more interestingly, that's the episode where we really start to dig into Anne's core values of divinely clever, dazzlingly beautiful, and angelically good. And if you like that discussion, well, hold on to your hats because that discussion guided a lot of our analysis in seasons 2 and 3. So knowing what is kind of coming up ahead for this season, talking a lot more about community, a lot more about small town life, I think that particular episode way back in season 2 pulls out many of those same themes from Anne of Avonlea that we will be exploring yet again in Anne of Ingleside and in Rainbow Valley.
You know, Kelly, I think that that's a great choice. I hadn't thought of particularly that episode, but you're right. That really set up a lot of the ways that we have been talking about all of these books.
Well, and after we had our big sort of podcast retreat where we were planning out this season to come, I went back and I re-listened to some of those community-based episodes. And this one especially really stuck out to me because there's so much overlap in the themes. One of the things we talk about in episode 20 is this idea of third spaces. And that is something that we will be coming back to, right?
Yeah. We're gonna, especially, yeah.
I just think it's so interesting that you can really see that not only was Maud thinking about these themes and they stayed really present for her in her writing, but even now as we are kind of looking back on them, we're still pulling out a lot of these same through lines. So anyway, episode 20, Anne of Avonlea is Angelically Good. It weirdly perfectly sets up this entire upcoming season. So if you haven't had a chance to listen to that episode, go to it. Or another way we could think about this, Reagan, maybe not what is the best place to start, but what's your favorite episode?
Oh, favorite episodes. I can't choose. And listeners, by the way, we would love to know your favorite episodes too. Like just which ones have been the ones that you really enjoyed listening to or learned the most from.
Yes, let us know. We really would love to hear which episodes you've particularly connected to and enjoyed.
Although, as Kelly mentioned, our podcast statistics tell us it's our episodes about Gilbert.
That definitely seems to be true.
Well, okay. So I usually always feel really great about whichever episode was our most recent. And I think we've gotten more comfortable with podcasting and our format over time. So I think some of our later episodes are better or deeper. I have loved it when we have had guests. So some of those episodes are absolutely my favorite. But I also love it when it's just the two of us geeking out and following something right down a rabbit hole. So I can't choose one, but a few of my favorites are the 2 Blue Castle episodes, which is number 35 and number 36, because we just adore the book, The Blue Castle. And I loved talking about that with you. And episode 26, which was all about the proposals in Anne of the Island and Anne's romantic arc and her journey to Gilbert. I loved that discussion. In our first season, I actually think our episode 7 about Miss Stacy and education is a real favorite. And then pretty much any of the discussions about the adaptations of Anne, from the graphic novels to the miniseries and TV adaptations, just in terms of pure joy and laughter, those episodes are so much fun.
We definitely spend a lot of time cracking ourselves up talking about some of those Anne adaptations. And I love our episodes with special guests. We always have so much fun. There is nothing like sharing our geek outs with other kindred spirits. And even more excitingly, we are hoping to bring even more fun guests to you all this upcoming season as well. So definitely look forward to that coming up. Gosh, I don't know. I really agree with you, Reagan. I also love our Blue Castle episodes. And I'll say that maybe another sneaky favorite of mine is our Halloween episode where we discuss all the spooky stories in Anne of Windy Poplars.
And I know that was like a fun added extra for your little gothic loving heart, Kelly.
Right. Wait, Reagan, but Am I misremembering, or is that our worst, our least loved episode in terms of downloads?
It might be.
I think you might have told me that once.
I don't.
And it broke my heart because truly I'm like, oh, no one likes spooky stories like I do. Justice for the Halloween episode.
Well, okay, so I sort of think maybe people felt like it was a little skippable because it wasn't part of the bigger overarching discussion that we were having in terms of like the themes we were exploring. But
And I
if you
also
have,
think maybe people were suffering from Wendy Poplar's burnout.
could
That
be,
is not a well-loved book, and yet we somehow got what, 4 or 5 episodes out of it?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But friends, if you haven't listened to it, go back and give it a listen, especially as Halloween approaches again. Enjoy the gothicness of it all.
And you can picture yourself spending a dark and stormy night in the Tom Gallen house. Come on.
Make Kelly happy. Listen to her favorite episode.
So here we are now launching into season 4. And incredibly, we've had 2 full years of podcasting behind us. I can't believe how much we've done so far.
I know. Really, Kelly, this is kind of a lot.
I just like the breadth of work. I am impressed with us. So to orient new listeners, I want to kind of take you all through our structure. Most of our episodes are structured the same way. So here's kind of how we do it. We start each episode by identifying like a kindred spirit who is going to be a character who we feel embodies the theme of the episode. And then we also start with a quote of the episode, which is kind of the same idea. Although sometimes it's just a quote we really love. Then we'll move into a segment that we call the Story Club. And now that's going to be the bulk of our discussion on theme or character or plot points. Most of the time, the Story Club is about 70% of any episode. Then we like to have a short discussion that we call the Birch Path, and that's where we share some historical or other contextual information that sort of expands our understanding of the book. We also like to wind up with what we call puffed sleeves moments, if we have them. That is like a fun extra, something that we love from the book that didn't quite fit into the larger discussion, but we still wanted to acknowledge. And then we always finish with a segment called Inspired by Anne, or sometimes Inspired by whoever our kindred spirit of the episode is. And these are going to be recommendations. So it's either books, sometimes it's products, other items, sometimes it's experiences, anything that was inspired by our theme of the episode.
And you guys, just in case you were wondering, we are not sponsored at all. Anything that we share with you is purely just because we like it.
We've tried it and loved it. Like Reagan said earlier, our friendship was born out of a shared love for fancy soaps and books. And so we are conveying that to you.
Right, exactly. A large part of me and Kelly's friendship is us being like, let me show you this new thing I got and why I love it.
Yes. So our first season was all about the first and most beloved book by Ella Montgomery, Anne of Green Gables. And the essential question that started this podcast is, why is Anne of Green Gables so beloved over generations? Why are new fans finding and falling in love with Anne all the time? And that was sort of the big question we really wanted to dig into. So in that first season, we broke the book out by characters and then also explored a lot of the adaptations of the original work. In season 2, we talked about the next 3 Anne books, the books that explore Anne's young adulthood before she gets married. So that's the arc of Anne of Avonlea, Anne of the Island, and Anne of Windy Poplars. And then we use that guiding theme of Anne's growth arc, started right at the very beginning of Anne of Green Gables, in Anne's quest to be, quote, divinely beautiful, dazzlingly clever, or angelically good, as our lens to explore those 3 books. And then we finish that season by talking about a much beloved, but often overlooked book by Lucy Maud Montgomery, the standalone adult novel, The Blue Castle, which, as we said before, we both love. But also because we saw so many echoes of the themes in Anne's young adulthood in Valency's growth arc in The Blue Castle. And, whatever, we just love it. We couldn't stop talking about it. So in it went.
I know. We didn't want to wait until we finished all of the Anne books for us to be able to talk about The Blue Castle.
We couldn't wait. And frankly, we keep talking about how we want to keep recording episodes about The Blue Castle. So, hang on to your hats, you guys. I think you'll hear more about it at some point.
Kelly, it's our podcast. We can do whatever we want.
It's very true. Last season, again, we focused on just one book. This time it was Anne's House of Dreams, because we felt like that book was so singular in the Anne universe. It follows Anne through her first 2 years of marriage, with both the joys of young love and the heartbreak of trying to become a mother. And so we did some character studies of the new characters that enter Anne's life, and we explored some deep themes around grief and motherhood. So, really poignant book and a really beautiful season, and we wanted to give it a lot of time to breathe. So that's part of the reason that Anne's House of Dreams got such a lengthy treatment. Then again, we also threw in an episode on one of Maud's weirder and not very much beloved books, Kilmeny of the Orchard.
Yeah, that book's a wild ride, guys.
Yeah, we have to like do these one-off episodes every once in a while just to like shake things up, and that one really shakes things up. And we also had another fun episode that we devoted to talking about best summer reads in general. That season is super special, though, because we ended it with a trip to Prince Edward Island and attending the Ella Montgomery Institute's biannual conference. We captured all of that in a travel log episode, and I can't believe we did that. That was incredible, and I'm so glad it's out there for you all to listen to and experience right along with us.
It really was an amazing experience, and probably one that is going to keep paying dividends this upcoming season and seasons to come, where we have all sorts of new context, all sorts of new ways of thinking about the books and the scholarship around it, and just understanding Prince Edward Island a little bit more as a singular place.
We learned so much, y'all.
And now we are on to season 4. We are going to talk about the next 2 books in the Anne series, and they focus on the childhood of Anne's children. So that's Anne of Ingleside, which is book 6, and Rainbow Valley, which is book 7. We see less and less of Anne in these books, and we spend more time with the kids as they gradually develop independence and start forming friendships and having experiences on their own. And then we will turn to 2 books about another close-knit group of children developing their own independence and senses of self. That's The Story Girl and its sequel, The Golden Road. These 4 books aren't as well known to the more casual Anne fan, so if you haven't read them, don't worry. You can listen to our recaps of each book, which will get you all caught up, or maybe you'll be inspired to read them yourselves. There is a lot to love in all of them. Well, definitely 3 of the 4. But
there's a lot to love in most of them.
There's a lot. There's a lot to love spread out in various amounts.
Right.
But all of them do have charming and lovely moments, and we can't wait to talk about it all with you. We also hope to have some new guests this season. When we went to the conference this summer, we met so many smart, interesting scholars, and we cannot wait for you all to get to meet some of them and learn from them as well.
So let's wind up this episode with some inspired buys. So although this episode drops in October, Reagan and I are recording in September in the full back to school swing. And I am seeing all the back to school fashions online and in real life. And it is all the same stuff that I would have worn in middle school and in high school. So I want to talk about 90s trends, Reagan. I can just picture Anne picking out her dresses before the first day of school so carefully to make sure that she was keeping up with the trends. And so here we are, still inspired by these revolving trends. And so, my friend, my question for you is, what 90s trends are you shocked to see come back? And what 90s trends are you delighted to see come back?
Good question. All right, I'm going to think about this for a sec. You go first.
Okay. So for me, I am delighted to see whimsigoth fashion come back.
I did not know that was a term.
So first of all, this was me to a T in middle and high school. And my heart just sort of like glows to see young people wearing those long silk bias cut skirts, all those like celestial prints like sun, moon, stars, and those beautiful little romantic elements like roses and ruffles and lace. I feel like a good way to describe whimsigoth would be sort of like 80s romantic goth, like kind of a Kate Bush, but then a little bit more wearable, some brighter colors. So like Kate Bush combined with like Phoebe Buffay from Friends.
Okay. I was going to go Stevie Nicks for reaching back even farther, but
sure. Or yeah, I think that's right too. Yeah, Stevie Nicks, but yeah, a little more colorful.
Right. So less dark and dreary, right? Yes. Less witchy, more pixie.
I think that's a great way to put it. So that was definitely how I like to dress in middle and high school. God, I still remember one of my first day of school outfits. And now I grew up in Southern California. And as we were just talking about, it's always super hot in September. But I remember wearing, no joke, a dark purple velvet blazer and a bias cut slip dress, silk strip dress to school. I think it was probably the first day of my sophomore year. I was scorching hot all day, but
Purple,
I
purple
had
velvet.
purple velvet, but I had to rock it for the fashion.
Yes. Oh my God, I love it. I love it.
I will say though, the 90s trend I'm a little less delighted to see come back around is all that super structured menswear we're seeing, specifically those vests, like the vests that look like they're part of a three-piece suit, but like we're
Yep.
just wearing the vest. I think undeniably they look very cool and chic on some people, but it is just not for me.
Yeah, I'm not into vests, I don't think. Though in the 90s, I definitely had a few, but they were less of the structured and more like you wore it over like a poet blouse,
Yes, same.
right? I had I had like a black velvet vest with like little rainbow flowers embroidered on it.
That honestly sounds really cute.
Loved that vest. I would not wear it now. So yeah, I don't think I'm going to pick up the vest look. It's funny. So since I have a middle schooler, it's really interesting, like watching all of their tastes evolve and seeing these trends develop kind of up close. And of course, they think that
Yeah.
they invented it. So I kind of love those loose cargo style pants in the late 90s. So I'm
Mm.
kind of glad those are back. Should I buy a pair?
Yes, definitely. I feel like a linen or a cotton version, especially.
So the tweens pair them with like ribbed baby tees. And I do think I'm well past the ribbed baby tee time of my life. That was a time I participated. It is not my time now. That's my problem, is trying to figure out what I would pair it with.
Well, I think that you can maybe not go full ribbed baby tee, but I think you can still pair it with maybe a more close fitting top. But I think most importantly is you want to pair it with like a more cropped top. Yeah, I don't know. I still have emotional damage from being a young woman in the early 2000s. So low rise jeans, crop tops, all of those things are traumatizing to me. But if you do not feel the same way, then I would invite you to explore. There's tons of crop tops out there.
They are really, that is one of the other things that I'm really seeing coming back, is not just the cropped shirts, but the really boxy, wide
Yes.
fit t-shirts,
Yep.
right? I definitely had a few of those as a teen. That was like the only style you could get your t-shirt in.
No, you're absolutely right. For years, you could not find like just a regular t-shirt that went all the way down to your hips.
That is
What we
definitely,
lived through.
I know. But here's what I'm also seeing right now that is very big. And it's not, I don't think it's specifically 90s. Honestly, it's very inspired, but this is a literally inspired by Anne, which is the
Hmm.
old-fashioned hair bows on not little girls, on tweens and teens.
Oh, I know. I am seeing those and I love them. They're big.
Yeah. Yeah,
They're
they're
big.
they're everywhere. And honestly, like truly straight out of Anne, cloth bows on like your ponytails or your half up styles. They're very cute and old fashioned, but also timeless. I don't
I
know.
think they're really, really cute. I have seen those on a lot of, yeah, again, like younger folks, teens and tweens, maybe like college age girls. And I just think they're lovely, like super romantic and
Yeah,
lush. I'm tempted to give it a shot, but also I feel like I don't really wear my hair in enough fashions where a bow would make sense with it.
right,
I don't know.
right. No,
I'm gonna have to ruminate on this one.
it's so funny because when my kiddo was in kindergarten, right? Like we did a lot of those hairstyles for
Yeah,
her
of course.
with her little braids and things like that. And then she hasn't worn ribbons in years. But now it's great because I can go back to all of those stores of ribbon, and I have, and pulled them out and tie them in Alice's ponytail before she goes to seventh grade. She looks so cute.
I bet. Oh my goodness.
So, kindred spirits, are you wearing any of these 90s styles or some Anne of Green Gables hair bows? We want to know. Sure, sure.
Or what
Tell
are
us.
your kids wearing that's absolutely shocking you to see come around again? Everyone, please join us again in 2 weeks for another episode of Kindred Spirits Book Club. We will be starting our discussion of Anne of Ingleside with a recap of the events of the book. And we are very excited to present, coming up soon, a special guest, Laura Robinson of the L.M. Montgomery Institute. Laura is amazing, so smart and funny and interesting. You guys are going to love our discussion with her. Please be sure to subscribe to Kindred Spirits Book Club wherever you listen to podcasts so you'll never miss an episode. And don't forget, you can still get a free Kindred Spirits Book Club sticker by leaving us a review or sharing about us on social media. Just email us or DM us on Instagram to tell us that you did so. Thanks, Kindred Spirits.
Bye, Kindred Spirits.